Okay, folks, good morning or good afternoon or good evening. The topic today is going to be just a little chat. It's following, I just seen a video of Grampy's workshop there, and he's got problems with condensation. And I'm no expert, but I could fill some blanks here with my experience. My experience is I've renovated some, but I've built 8 houses and three cottages in my lifetime. So I have and I was not an expert, but I had a Ontario building code and I had a Canadian building code that I read through, and I got some information too. My mother-in-law used to work at the CMHC, Central Housing and I got a bit of a pamphlet one time, well, it's pretty elaborate, on insulation and why we insulate. There's okay, where you live has a lot to do with what I'm going to say. You live in Canada, it's cold, it freezes, and you'll have problems. You live in the States, in the northern states, it doesn't freeze all the time, but when it freezes, you'll have problems. I've seen some guys, okay, and I tried to explain, but just by writing, and it's hard to explain to people that you'll get condensation because you're metal, okay? Like I got metal here, my workbench, you can't see it, it's right there. My workbench is metal, I have tools on here, but I don't get no condensation. Why? You hear that? Right there. Because it's always set at 55 degrees, 55, okay? I don't let it freeze. Plus, but this is a topic for another day. Right here, I have they call that a tin can heater there's 2 thermostats on that. One that starts the fan and one that turns it on, more or less. But it turns it on, but it's only when the internal temperature within the there's a thermal pane outside, and then there's a 1-inch reflective insulation on the inside. That's a window. But I don't use a window. What I do is I produce heat with that. It's pretty considerable. At this time of the year, it's a lot. It'll keep this garage inside here. That heater won't start at all during the day when the sun's shining and it's reflecting. Even when the sun is not shining, but it's just like through the clouds there, I seen that the fan starts. Like right now, the sun's not shining on it. It's early in the morning, so I'm not getting no heat. Okay, yeah, nothing to do. This is a topic for another day, eh? But it's free heat. You always have to figure in the equation, okay, that you gotta pay the cost to build that. This was built with tin cans, Pepsi, ginger ale tin cans, and glued together and make a long tube, and you probably do it with something else. I've seen there's 2001 ways. And then I have a header at the bottom, a header at the top, or blow air in at the bottom, and just with a little computer fan, so you minimize the energy put in, because if you put in more energy that than that you're saving, then it's a useless project. It's just like I seen. Not to criticize, I'm not doing this to criticize, it's just for information purposes. I seen Grampy had a dehumidifier inside his garage or barn, or I don't know what he calls it, to take the humidity out. it's a never-ending process. And don't, the worst thing you want to do is put vapor barrier on the inside and your wall's not insulated, okay? Start off with, in a wall, okay, you have a dew point. Where your dew point is somewhere in the insulation. I had to look at this one time, okay? And I'll tell you why. I was building a house and I had got the brain idea of putting 1.5 inch insulation on the outside, have a plywood, 1/2 inch plywood on the wall for the studs to keep them straight and make the wall solid, and then insulation on the inside. This was going to be a super, well, it's the house next door to where I live now. I don't know if you ever seen that. It's the house next door anyways. It's super insulated. The house costs almost nothing to heat. It's got R60, I think, in the attic. Almost 3 feet of insulation in the attic. All blown insulation. It's got vapor barrier. You know where they call that, you know where it condensate, like Grampy's right now, it's condensating on the, what do you call that? It's just to keep the air from moving through the wall, not the humidity. Not a vapor barrier. Can't think of the word. But anyways, the outside wrap there. It condensated on that because that's where the dew point is. That's where the cold meets the warm. Okay? And as you, let's say, somebody said, put sawdust and I don't know what else, old newspaper, shredded newspaper. That's how they used to do it, okay? And they'd end up with cavities. Okay, my daughter's they have an old house that's 100 and maybe 150 years old, that house. I redid it. You know, I fixed the problem. Put 2-inch insulation on the outside. Okay, I was the house next door. Okay, I researched this dew point thing. It's because I got concerned by putting 1.5 inch insulation and the plywood. I didn't want the condensate to form on the inside of the plywood, on the plywood itself. If it's on the insulation, then it'll evaporate before it wicks down to the bottom, okay? And at the worst case, you'll get minimal amounts. And you're keeping the inner humidity from going through the wall with the vapor barrier. So the insulation is where you want your dew point to end up at. If it ends up on your outer wall, you got problems. It ends up on the inner wall, you got problems. It's got to be within that insulation. You cannot, if you're in a cold climate, and even we want to touch on the climates where it doesn't freeze all the time. You get winter, like it only freezes 5-6 times a year during the winter. The climates like in Virginia's and North Carolina. Well, if you got tools in a garage and it freezes, that table saw freezes, then it warms up and it heats up, especially in the days when you had a radical change. It'll condensate on that table and you'll be wiping it off and putting a little bit of oil on it to protect it, or else you got rust. You know why? Because it condensates right on the table. Any metal is the worst, okay? It'll condensate on the metal and it won't condensate like I look at a milk crate. You won't see it condensating on the milk crate. Well, if it does, boy, you got problems. But I seen a guy build a pole barn. He's got all that tin, and he's got humidity problem. It's the on the ceiling, the warm air, when he's got the door open, the warm air comes in, it condensates on the tin, and then the drops fall all over, and they're falling on all the tools, and he's wondering what to do. My suggestion to him was to have some ceiling fans, have a few air exhausts in the ends of the building, and have a few air intakes with fans to draw in some air from outside, circulate that air. Okay, if you're not going to heat it, circulate that air, and you'll minimize the change, the radical change in temperature, and you'll eliminate the chances of condensation. When you jerk the temperature around like Grampy's, not to criticize him, there's other guys that are doing it too. They got these construction heaters, or diesel fuel heaters, or I don't know what you call those. Well, and you're all of a sudden, boom, you're putting the heat to it, you're bringing the temperature up to 80. You're going to have condensation problems, and the way to get away from that is keep it at just so at 45 or 50. But to keep it at 45, 50, if you're just have an outside wall, and even if you have an outside wall and an inside wall, like plywood, the airspace in between, it doesn't cut it in my books. You're going to have condensation within that wall, even if you don't see it, on the inner or on the outer wall. And if you put the plastic in there, I think you're going to worsen the problem. You can't get away from having good insulation. Okay, there's many kinds of insulation. The best, you hire a company, and he comes and they spray your walls, and they rip, like they don't leave the spray all over the stud, and then you're stuck with that. They clean all that, the upper and the floors, and they clean all that, and then you get your ceiling done. You put vapor barrier, blow insulation. That's your best insulation, is the one that's blowing in the attic, because it goes everywhere, eh? And then you put your plywood, put whatever you want after. I don't care, drywall, whatever. It's nice. Drywall's nice because then you can paint it white, reflects the light. Okay, and your walls, well, your best. Okay, I was forgetting this. Your best insulation for a garage or a shed, you know what kind it is? It's Roxul. Roxul. It's mineral insulation, not the pink or the yellow stuff there. Roxul insulation. You know why? Because even if you have a little bit of humidity in it, it'll dry up, and it won't change its molecular structure. I'm just saying that. I don't know about the but the biggest thing, you know what it is? If you have a little mouse, well, the little mouse don't like playing in Roxul insulation. They just love, you put any other kind in there, they'll be hauling that, they'll be making little nests and everything. You put Roxul insulation, the little mouse won't move nothing. They don't like that. My son-in-law and daughter's farm there in the milk house above, they had a lot of problems with the mouse, So I told them, I said, we're going to rip all that out. I said, I'm going to show you what works. So we put some Roxul insulation. You go up there, it's still like the day we did it. They're not touching nothing. It's not work. Roxul insulation's a little bit more, like, I don't know. I was going to say a price, but there's that hat thing again. The construction material's gone up a lot since the last time I built a house. But, I don't know. Whatever you pay for normal insulation, well, you pay maybe 10%, 10 or 15% more, and you get the Roxul insulation, but it's worth the investment. If you running a dehumidifier in a garage, you're spinning your wheels for nothing. May as well run a small heater, keep that heated at 50 degrees, and then you'll never have no condensation. Well, you will, because you'll always be fighting the cold and the heat right on your wall. You have to put insulation. Gee, if you don't have the budget for it, just save your coins, save bottle, pick up bottles, and sell them. Pick up beer bottles and wine bottles. Go sell them at the liquor store, and buy yourselves a bale of insulation, a bale of rock soap insulation, and you do part of a wall, and then take 2-3 years to do it. Once your garage is insulated, you won't regret it. But that's it. That's my spiel. I'm just saying this because some people have bright ideas. If you're going to heat it, heat it. And if you're going to heat it, we'll insulate it, or else you're heating outside. If you're not going to heat it, even if you don't heat a garage, okay, when the temperature starts to turn and you get freezing at night, you will know when the maple syrup starts to run. Well, your garage is going to start to run at the same time, because that same thing will happen. It's warm during the day and it goes down to freezing at night, so you get that jerk in temperature inside your garage, and that will cause condensation, and you'll be fighting a losing battle. That's it, man. Said all I had on this insulation. There's no way, I think there's no way around insulating if you're going to heat. If you're just going to, I don't know, just heat. Well, if you heat every day, you better insulate. But if you heat like maybe once a week, hey, before those walls are rotted and it starts to fall, you're gonna be dead, so you won't care. Takes a long time for a chunk of wood, like even spruce. Takes a long time to deteriorate enough to affect the structure, eh? And so I don't know. You can't beat a well-insulated garage, barn, shed, call it what you may. I have my shed outside. I'm pointing right there because it is right there. It's not insulated and the walls aren't finished, but I don't heat it. I go in there and get some. But right now there's about 5 feet of snow in front of the door, so you're not gonna go in there. But come spring, I'll be going in there, and sometimes you'll see a little bit of frost depending when you go on different things. But that's when you. I remember, you guys got time. I remember my grandpa. We used to go help my grandpa, and sometimes it was in French they call that hangar. It's a machine shed. That's more or less the name in English. We used to go in there, open. There was a sliding door, big sliding door, and there was enough space under the sliding door that it wouldn't jam in the wintertime. The floors were made out of, I don't know, rough, probably 3-inch plank, and they used to park the 2 tractors in there, and it was grain bins upstairs on the 2nd level, and it was full of mice and everything. I have a story about the mice, but that will be told on another day. But they used to condensate in there too, and he wouldn't heat it. It's condensation is natural, and if you try to fight it, well, you're spinning your wheels. Yeah, insulate and heat, or forget about it. Just while your tools and everything, put wax or put oil on them, keep them from rusting. That's the only way. Okay, that's it for that one. I don't know if I did any justice to it, but I hope so. Better ones, you know where they are, eh? They're up ahead. So until then, I salute you all, and we'll see you in the next one.